Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering to discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And making his return to the show, Logan Wilkinson. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Because today we are talking all about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And so we decided we were going to do like a return to a couple years ago when we did a whole bunch of the Spider-Mans and stuff. And also because Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse just came to Disney Plus here in the States. Fun fact, when I went to like pull up the images and stuff for this, for the thumbnails and the YouTube video and stuff like that, the first thing that came up was Into the Spider-Verse, which is apparently available in other regions, just not here in the US. So that was annoying that we can't do that one. So because we're still missing Into the Spider-Verse, and we are missing No Way Home from our like definitive Spider-Verse rankings of things.
Is that right?
Yep. No Way Home just never came. So
I don't remember even doing...
We did Homecoming and Far From Home to wrap things up.
I don't remember doing Amazing Spider-Man 1 or 2. That's how you know that those are black holes of movies.
Yeah, that's fair. If you like the show, we'd love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. As I said, we picked Across the Spider-Verse here, A, because it's one of my all-time favorites, and B, because it just made the jump from Netflix to Disney+. So we're going to chat about that today. In between Andor episodes. We did the mid-season, first half of Season 2 of Andor last week, and we will absolutely be wrapping up Season 2 of Andor on next week's show.
Yep.
And Cameron and I watched this week's 3 episodes. I watched it a second time with Cameron last night, so it's a real good show. History lesson for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, originally released June 2nd, 2023. Other notable releases of the time, back in April 2023, you may recall we had the Super Mario Brothers movie on April 5th. Then we had April 21st, Evil Dead Rise. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on May 5th, just over 2 years ago now. May 19th brought us the most recent Fast X of the Fast and Furious franchise. Still waiting for like Fast X Part 2 or whatever they're going to call that. Then May 26th was the live-action Little Mermaid. June 2nd here, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. A week later, it was followed up by Transformers Rise of the Beasts on June 9th. The 16th of June brought us the triumvirate of The Flash, Elemental, and Asteroid City. So a little bit of something for everyone. June 30th brought us Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. July 4th, the patriotic movie that year was Sound of Freedom. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was July 12th. And, of course, the notable Barbie and Oppenheimer rounding out that summer on July 21st. So our domestic gross here, been a little while since we've done one of these. In 2023, the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse had a domestic gross of $381.5 million, which was up from the $190.1 million of Into the Spider-Verse. Where do you guys think that falls in the top domestic grosses of 2023, of the Barbenheimer year?
I'm trying to remember. Trying to think here.
I'm going to say 7th.
7th?
Ooh,
All right.
I'm going to say 6th.
6th. So 7th, Cameron was, Logan was Wonka with $218.5 million.
Ooh.
And 6th was The Little Mermaid with $298.1 million.
We were way underselling it.
Spider-Verse did better than both of them domestically. Yeah. we'll get to worldwide stuff in a little bit, but
number 4.
4 was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at $358.9 million.
So 5.
So we're still a little bit better than Guardians.
Sorry, you're right.
Yep, number 3. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, $381.5 million.
Wait, behind Oppenheimer and Barbie.
No.
Ahead of Oppenheimer, probably.
Oh, that's right.
Ahead of Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was number 5, 330 million. Barbie was number 1 that year at the box office, 636 million. So do you want to take guesses on the other? Looks like we got 4 other movies in the top 10 that we've not landed on yet.
Is 2023?
2023. Yep. And I mentioned 2 of them in the like recently on kind of, or like movies around that time.
It's definitely Super Mario Brothers, maybe.
Super Mario Brothers was number 2, 574
Oh, that makes
million.
sense. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got 8, 9, and 10 still. In our top
Elemental's
10.
in there somewhere, maybe.
Elemental was number 17. It did great on like streaming, and it had great legs for what it opened at. But it was not Pixar back to its Inside Out 2 powers.
Yeah.
Is it Mission Impossible or Sound of Freedom?
Sound of Freedom was number 10, 184.1 million. Mission Impossible was just outside the top 10, number 13, 172 million. So we got number 8 and 9 that have not been identified.
We had a Transformers movie that year, so that's always worth a shot.
Transformers was 15. Transformers Rise of the Beasts, 157. Wow. So yeah, we got... I'll say
in 2023.
We had, another Marvel movie that year. We already covered Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was there at number 4. So anybody recall what other Marvel movies came out that year?
Is this Wakanda Forever?
That is not. This was Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Okay.
Was number 8. And then the last of the top 10, I'll give you, was the latest installment of a Keanu Reeves franchise.
Oh, John Wick.
John Wick Chapter 4. Yep.
Chapter 4, yeah.
Good for John Wick. Good for that. Awesome.
187. Yeah, John Wick,
Beating out,
rare franchise that has like done better at the box office with every new iteration.
Yeah.
We'll see if that holds up with the Ana de Armas one coming up, but yeah, so that was our top 10. Sound of Freedom, John Wick Chapter 4, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Wonka, The Little Mermaid, Oppenheimer, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Super Mario Brothers at number 2, and Barbie at number 1. On the worldwide front, the movie brought in $681.1 million, which is up from $373.8 of Into the Spider-Verse. Where do you think it falls worldwide? Noting that, like, clearly some of those had a better traction across overseas.
You know what? I'm gonna double down and say 7th.
7th? 7th. Still Wonka. 633.5 million.
But
that's close.
Yep. So a little bit better than Wonka.
So I'm going to say 6 then?
6, indeed. Yep. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Number 6. Fast X climbs past it to become number 5.
How they do internationally.
Yeah. And Oppenheimer rose the ranks and is number 3. Barbie and Super Mario Brothers still have the top 2 spots. They were the 1-2 punch of $1 billion that year. Oppenheimer just shy of $1 billion at 976 million. Then Guardians Volume 3 at 4. Fast X, Spider-Man, and Wonka 5, 6, and 7. Full River Red, which I believe is a Chinese release, was number 8 worldwide with 581 million. Little Mermaid was number 9 with 569 million, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning climbed the ranks worldwide to beat number 10 at $565.8 million.
I saw that with Trevor.
Yep, indeed.
You know what's craziest about everything you just said to me is that it's not even been 2 years since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came out, when I swear to God, I thought that came out in 2018. I was like, that feels so long ago. That feels like that happened forever ago.
Yeah.
And it's also a testament to how quickly Marvel has just muddied everything in the wake of Infinity War and Endgame.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was kind of already in the like murky waters post Endgame stuff.
Sure, right.
Guardians technically was Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 2023. So we're just over 2 years.
Just over 2 years. Okay.
But Across the Spider-Verse here has a runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes. In the Sony Spider-Man timeline of things, I didn't bother pulling in the Morbiuses and the Cravens and stuff like that. Just the Spider-Man movies. We had Into the Spider-Verse had come out December of 2018, followed by Far From Home in the MCU side of things. Yeah.
Can I add in a fun fact? That I double-checked the doc to make sure it's on in there. I saw, when doing research, that apparently this is the longest American animated film of all time at 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It was at the time of its release.
At the time.
Yeah.
I said at the time.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It was indeed. Yeah. I almost had that in for trivia, but because it got surpassed the next year, I was like, eh. And it was like by kind of a certainly a name I did not recognize in terms of the movie that surpassed it for the longest. But yeah, at 2 hours and 20 minutes, it was at the time the longest animated American feature. Far From Home was the first post-Endgame film there, July of 2019. Then we had No Way Home, taking us out of the pandemic, December 17th, 2021.
That's right.
And Across the Spider-Verse here, July 2nd, 2023, thriving because of how much Into the Spider-Verse was seen on Netflix during the pandemic. And this is to date the last of the actual Spider-Mans. We do have Spider-Man Brand New Day slated for July 31st, 2026. We'll see if they actually hit that date.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it does, they have fully gone in on we're starting filming and soon, and they have that stuff locked in. But and then Beyond the Spider-Verse now slated for June 4th, 2027. So we're still a couple years away from the finale of Miles's story here.
I know it's not really what we're talking about, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Where are we at with Brand New Day? How excited are we for that? Really, how do we feel about that after where it left off? Right.
I'll be curious. Ultimately, to see where it goes. I'm curious, and I think this speaks to something that one of your common gripes with the Tom Holland Spider-Man was Tom Holland Spider-Man kind of had all the gadgets and all the bells and whistles, and this seems like it is setting him up to be, an on-the-ground kind of Spider-Man again, and he has to kind of do that. Did you watch, Cameron and I talked about it extensively, but did you watch the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated show that they did on Disney Plus in the last 6 months or whatever?
Maybe
it's kind
I
of
might have.
It's an alternate universe kind of, but it's very related to. And originally it was a hey, it's Peter Parker, his first year, his freshman year before the events of Civil War. The animated version still very much has ties to Civil War stuff, and we see kind of parallels to the MCU version that we know of Spider-Man, but it very much is in that version he kind of becomes mentor or a mentee to Osborn, played by Domingo Coleman, or Coleman Domingo.
It's good.
It was a really, really good show. But it also has a very classic aesthetic in terms of its animation and art style kind of thing.
Also classic hero outfits, Iron Man's wearing the old 70s chonky Iron Man suit.
Yeah. Doc Ock has the bowl cut and
I see. I see. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, they're embracing a lot of the old designs, but bringing them into modern, and also introducing some new things. Instead of the rhino, we get the unicorn. And it's just it's some good stuff. It's really, really good.
Yeah. He still kind of ends up being a little, high-powered tech-wise because now it's Osborn bankrolling him, but I think it might still be kind of a little bit more in the vein of what you're looking for. But yeah, on Brand New Day, I think that's the thing that interests me the most is what is that version that can't be reliant on Stark Tech and all that stuff.
What does this look like when he has nobody to support him?
Yeah.
Oh, Peter's design is very reminiscent of the 60s cartoon, isn't it? Oh wow.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to the voice actor not knowing what the word woke meant.
Yeah, that was the thing that made waves basically right before the thing launched. He was yeah, I don't want to, like, I didn't want to sign on and feel like the show is just woke for woke's sake or something like that. And, like, everybody's like, oh, well, fuck this guy. Like, Spider-Man's all about being woke. And then the show ends up being, like, the most woke version of Spider-Man. And so it's like, okay, this guy clearly doesn't know what the word woke means, or he doesn't know what show he actually signed on for.
The showrunner did an AMA on Reddit, and they're like, hey, what's your thoughts on that? He goes,
yeah, I think he just misspoke.
yeah, he misspoke. We've had conversations. He understands he misspoke. Like, just watch the show for yourself and understand that, yeah. And it's like, you are not wrong. This is quite literally the most woke version of Spider-Man you could ever imagine.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's like 10 episodes, so
it's really great.
Pretty quick and easy if you want to just kind of sit down and like binge it over a weekend or something like that.
I assume like a half an hour episode.
Yep.
Okay. Very nice.
Anyway, what are your thoughts on Brand New Day? What are you thinking about it coming up as you asked the coach?
It's interesting because I don't know. I mean, you sort of, I think, framed it really well for me, where I obviously have had my issues with Tom Holland Spider-Man, as have been well documented. You can go watch everything I've ever talked about involving Tom Holland as Spider-Man. But I also really like where they leave his character, and I think it's a really great ending. In some ways, I think it's very reminiscent of Daniel Craig at the end of Skyfall, and how that sort of character is now fully defined as like the Bond we know, and is now going to kind of go on his adventures. And yet I also view that as a cautionary tale, because the two Bond movies we got after Skyfall were really not very great in terms of their interpretation of that Bond. So that could also be something to be leery of for them moving on post it. But I like Tom Holland a lot. I would hope that they have some acknowledgement of the time that will have passed since, at this point, it'll have been years and years by the time we get to 2026. And so I hope they recognize the fact that, like, he would be, like, at the very least, like, a senior in college, right? At least make him have aged somewhat, because it's going to be hard to be, like, you're a freshman in college, and Tom Holland looks young, but he does not look 19 years old. And so I think that, and it'd also just be a really cool, different version of a Spider-Man story we haven't really ever got on screen before, right? Where it's just sort of him, like, at the end of college or post-college, and is just, like, an actual adult now. Spider-Man 3 tried to do that, but the less said on that one, the better. And so I think there are avenues for it to be a really interesting story and kind of explore new ground in terms of Spider-Man. I always have my reservations around the fact that there's just going to be MCU elements, and I'm someone, as have said before, who likes my Spider-Man when it is just sort of him on his own, because I think he's a character who shines best in that way. I think, like Batman in that sense, I think I like them better when they're on their own, because they are some of the most grounded of superheroes, and when you start to get into kind of like galactic and cosmic stuff and larger superhero team-ups, I think it kind of diminishes like the, you know, kid from Brooklyn or just this dude who's fighting crime on his own. But, you know, especially given the state of the MCU right now, I think it is something that I have largely more faith in that being good than a lot of the past 3 or 4 years of the MCU, right?
Yeah, it'll also be interesting, like, to that element of, like, what is the MCUification going to look like? It is going to be, like, the next movie up is Fantastic Four in a couple months.
I was just going to say.
Then, after that, it's Doomsday 2 months before Brand New Day comes out. Right. So that's like Avengers Doomsday. Then a couple months later, this Spider-Man movie, and then a year later, Secret Wars. So it is like, is that going to slide in? Are they going to find a way to tie him into the bigger MCU story that they're doing there?
Imagine, yeah.
Right.
Or
Reed Richards is going to be involved some way, right? Probably, right? Something like that.
Yeah, that seems to be like, oh, yeah, maybe he's tied in there. Yeah, Pedro Pascal shows up and helps out this new kid Spider-Man or something like that.
Yeah,
as somebody from, you know, a different universe. Yeah, we'll see.
It could also just be I mean, he does have the background with Mysterio to be like, he could use that as like a cover of like, oh, I'm from a different one multiverse. He could also it could also just be like, oh my gosh, we're about to lose. Then all of a sudden, this kid in this red and blue outfit showed up and started throwing webs at people. And it could be something like that, where it is like this, like nobody knows who he is, and it could be a good setup for his movie after Doomsday. So
yeah, it'll be interesting because it falls like in the Doomsday Secret Wars saga of it all. It falls in the spot that Captain Marvel had originally back in the Infinity War Endgame spot of like,
that's a good point.
Oh, it's in between, so. Yeah, maybe you're going to set something up where we see Peter in Doomsday or something in some sort of, cameo thing or something, though he wasn't one of those, director's chairs. But maybe we'll see him in there, and then this will be like a rewind that like sees him leading up to how he gets involved back in that mess or something like that. But yeah, it'll be, we're a year out from all that, so we'll see where they take it marketing wise. I think the thing I'm more interested in will be if they go with Secret Wars and kind of build on what they did with No Way Home, and we see Tobey Maguire there in Secret Wars, and we see Andrew Garfield in Secret Wars, and Tom Holland again. And also, I imagine the potential of the three of them all showing up in Beyond the Spider-Verse seems like a real possibility with the different kinds of things they'll throw at the wall. We already saw Garfield and Toby in like archival footage in this movie, so it'll be interesting to see if we see like new stuff from them in the way that we saw Donald Glover in this movie. Yeah, you have any thoughts to add there, Cam, on Brand New Day?
I think I've already kind of mentioned up at the top of the conversation, like I really think that it's so open to it could go any direction. That's what I'm excited about. Also, because MJ is at MIT, he's going to be able to, play the field a bit there. We get maybe some Felicia Hardy. We get some Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, Sadie Sink, I think, from Stranger Things has been announced as cast in an undisclosed role. So everybody was like, oh, is she going to be the real Mary Jane? It's like, no, they always do this with the... Like, look beyond hair color, everybody. They've always done that. Like Kirsten Dunst. Blonde famously played Mary Jane.
Emma Stone
famously redhead played the blonde Gwen Stacy. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where that shakes out. But all right.
Also, Zendaya did do her hair red that one time and looked incredible.
Sure.
So I don't want to hear it from folks anymore. Right? We're way past it. I don't want to hear it from folks. If you say, "Oh, well, I was like, no, done."
Back to Across the Spider-Verse here. Our cast of characters for this film. We have 3 directors for this one, just like Into the Spider-Verse had, though 3 different directors. So Joaquim dos Santos, who previously had directed episodes of Justice League Unlimited and Avatar The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. We have Kemp Powers, who was a writer and co-director of the Pixar movie Soul. And then Justin K. Thompson in his directorial debut, but he's an animator going back to the mid-90s, back to 1996. So he's worked on many things over the years, but this was his first time at the director's chair. Then we have our writers, of course, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, having worked on projects like Clone High, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Lego Movie, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then Solo before they got kicked off of that project. And then also Dave Callahan with a little bit more shoddy track record as a writer. He was the writer of the 2005 Doom film with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's also one of the creators of the Expendables series. He wrote the 2014 Godzilla, which by and large I think was well received.
Yeah. The only complaint was people were like, "Oh, Bryan Cranston dies like way too early, and there's way too much focus on humans in that." But other than that,
we have Zombieland Double Tap that he worked on. And then we get into, he also wrote Wonder Woman 1984, the 2021 Mortal Kombat, but then, he wins it back with Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings. So a little bit all over the place in recent years.
Hey, not everybody, I would say he bats 500.
Yeah. And then in our big
Which is a great batting average.
Great batting average. Yeah. You look at those scripts that he helped write, great, like most of them, good if not great.
Yep.
So,
We have a big old cast of characters here. Shameik Moore as Miles Morales, having been in projects like Dope, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Wu-Tang, An American Saga. Haley Steinfeld as Gwen Stacy, of course, getting her start back in True Grit. She's also appeared in the Pitch Perfect films, The Edge of 17, Hawkeye, Arcane, and most recently she can be seen in Sinners out there. Brian Tyree Henry as Jeff Morales, having been in projects like Atlanta, If Beale Street Could Talk, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Eternals, Bullet Train, and the Transformers 1 animated film from last year. Luna Lauren Velez as Rio Morales, having been in Oz and Dexter, and then a brief stint in How to Get Away with Murder. Jake Johnson returning as Peter B. Parker, having been in New Girl, Safety Not Guaranteed, and Jurassic World, among other projects. Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, Inside Llewyn Davis, Ex Machina, Star Wars, X-Men Apocalypse, and Moon Knight, among many, many other things. Jason Schwartzman here as Spot, a Wes Anderson mainstay, going back to stuff like Rushmore. He's also in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Klaus, and one of my favorite games from a few years ago, The Artful Escape. Issa Rae as Jessica Drew, also having been in the show Insecure, as well as she was in the Barbie movie. Daniel Kaluuya as Cam's favorite, Hobie Brown, having been in Get Out, Black Panther, Nope, and Judas and the Black Messiah, among other things. Karan Soni as Pavitra Prabhakar, also in Safety Not Guaranteed, as well as Betas, one of the early Amazon shows. It was the Alpha House and Betas, so I always thought that was funny that those were the two shows that like got voted to a season. He was in Betas, while like John Goodman was in the Alpha House one.
Alpha House is great.
Yeah, Alpha House.
I never watched it. Is it worth the watch?
It's about Senator. It's a comedy from, I think it was the Doonesbury guy.
I think so. Yeah,
about senators, basically like 4 senators, one of whom was the guy Cherry in Daredevil Born Again recently. But yeah, 4 senators basically like crashing in a house together, to save costs in DC kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And it's based on a real story, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's either Chuck Schumer or Dick Durbin actually owned a house and just let people rent there, right? And it's based on like an actual thing that one of those guys used to do. I think it's 2 seasons. It's really fun, and I think you in particular, knowing your kind of interest in politics and political stuff, and just like sense of humor, I think you'd really like it. It's really fun. It's really good. I like the first season probably more than the second season, but it's the whole thing is still a pretty good time.
Yeah. I was a big fan of the Doonesbury comic strip back during the the height of the Iraq War. He put together some really stellar stuff that was just commentary from like a soldier's perspective, and kind of like spoke about the war that way, in a way that wasn't. It was political without being like partisan. It was focusing on the actual people who were dealing with stuff, not the politicians back home. So
other credits of Karan Soni's, of course, Dopinder in the Deadpool films. He's also in Strange World from Disney a few years back, and Miracle Workers. Shea Wiggum as George Stacy, who I always remember first seeing in Boardwalk Empire, but he's also in the Fast and Furious series, Kong Skull Island, Perry Mason, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Greta Lee as Lila was in Sisters and Past Lives. Mahershala Ali returning as Uncle Aaron, having been in House of Cards, Moonlight, Luke Cage, Green Book, and many other things. Technically, also, he does play Blade once in at the end of in a post-credit scene for the Eternals. So even if we never get an actual Blade movie, he did play Blade, kind of. Amanda Stenberg as Margot Kess, a.k.a. Spider-Bite, has been in... they were Rue in The Hunger Games, as well as they were in The Hate U Give, Dear Evan Hansen, and most notably last year's The Acolyte series. And then Jarrell Jerome as Miles G. Morales was in Moonlight and I'm a Virgo. Then we have a flurry of little like cameo-esque roles, including Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly, of course, from SNL and The Lonely Island. Jack Quaid as the Peter Parker in Gwen Stacy's universe, of course, having been in The Boys and My Adventures with Superman, making him and Nicolas Cage 2 of the only people who have played Spider-Man and Superman. Rachel Dratch as Miss Weber, of course, from SNL. Ziggy Marley is Lenny, the convenience shop owner, of course, famous of Bob Marley, and then also he was in Shark Tale from an acting standpoint. Yorma Taccone as Adriano Tumino, a.k.a. the Renaissance Vulture. He also reprises, he was the Spider-Man 67 in the post-credits tease of the first film. He reprises that here in this movie, also from The Lonely Island. J.K. Simmons plays all the iterations of J. Jonah Jameson that we hear throughout the film, of course, from Spider-Man and Whiplash, among other things. Donald Glover as Aaron Davis from Community Atlanta, Spider-Man Homecoming. Ayo Adibri as Glory, one of Gwen's bandmates from The Bear and Inside Out 2. Peter Sohn is Miles's roommate Genki in this, who was the Pixar director behind Elemental and The Good Dinosaur. He's also Socks the Cat in Lightyear. Taron Killam plays the gunslinger, web slinger version of Spider-Man, of course from SNL. Metro Boomin plays Metro Spider-Man, a.k.a. the one that says there's nowhere to run. My bad, I guess there was somewhere to run. And he's one of the music producers on Across the Spider-Verse, among other things. Josh Keaton, of course, playing or reprising his role as Spectacular Spider-Man, which he played in 2008 and 2009, and has been in many other Spider-Man games and stuff like that over the years. Yuri Lowenthal, of course, reprising his role as the Insomniac Spider-Man, having been in the Spider-Man games. We see Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Cliff Robertson in archival footage from Amazing and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man stuff. Kimiko Glenn is a brief, uncredited role, returning as Penny Parker here. Of course, reprising her role from Into the Spider-Verse. She's also in Orange is the New Black. And Peggy Lou cameos as Mrs. Chen from the Venomverse of films, when Spot pops over into that world. A little bit of trivia for you. This is currently... on the IMDb top 250 films, this is currently rated of the 250 films, this is rated number 44 as of a couple days ago when I pulled this together. And so I throw it to you. What do you guys think beats this out? I'll say the number 43 movie is from 1994, and the number 45 movie is from 1942. And I can give you hints if you want them. For the number 43 movie, the hint I'll give you was the breakout hit and debut of a young Natalie Portman.
Leon the Professional.
Indeed.
I thought I was hearing a different year. My bad.
1994, yeah.
1994. I thought you said 1930 or 1944. I was like, what?
Yeah, 1942 was number 45.
Wires crossed.
Which is a much more classic. You would expect this to be in a greatest films of all time list. 1942.
Charlie Chaplin, the Dictator?
No.
No, that's 40. Casablanca?
Oh,
there you go.
Spot on. Good
Nice.
job. Didn't even have to give you the hint on that one. Because I was going to be anything I really say is going to give it away. So I'll just say Humphrey Bogart.
There you go.
Even that would have been,
part of it's I've never seen Casablanca. So all I know are the
dude, it's so good.
Casablanca's pretty good.
Play It Again, Sam,
good.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
It is older. It is an older film.
Yeah.
That being said, of all the gin joints she could have walked in, why'd she have to walk into
good.
mine? Oh
Yeah.
my god,
It's a good one.
So good.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, currently listed at number 63, 2 spots behind
Wrong.
Avengers
Incorrect.
Infinity War. I agree. I would put this above Across the Spider-Verse myself, but...
I will also agree, as we'll get into here.
Yeah. We have Oscar... it was the Oscar nominee for Best Animated Feature Film. It ended up losing to The Boy and the Heron, the latest film from
right.
Studio Ghibli. And then some other trivia here. The sequence on Earth 13122, The Lego Universe, was animated by 14-year-old Preston Mutanga, who was hired after Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were very impressed by his Twitter video where he recreated the original trailer in Lego. They basically were like, well, we want to use that, and so they slotted him in. Also, just because I'm a Lego nerd, they weirdly don't use the actual licensed Daily Bugle set, But one of the other buildings is like one of the like modular buildings as part of their modular line. There's like an Al's, I believe, barbershop is like next to the building. So that's like a licensed set, but then their Daily Bugle is not the Daily Bugle from the actual sets. When Miles is rushing to meet with the guidance counselor, he passes by his friend Genki, who can be seen hanging out in Miles and Genki's dorm room playing Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on his PS5. This was shortly before that Spider-Man 2 game came out. That game's version of Spider-Man obviously appears later in the film as one of the 240 Spider-Man variants that we see throughout the film. So yeah, this was basically like one of the first places you could see Spider-Man 2 gameplay was it here in the film. In the anomaly section of the compound, continuing on that video game theme, the two pixelated villains that we see are Video Man, who first appeared in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in 1981, which was created by Electro as a living arcade game. And then the second is the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man 1982 game, the very first Spider-Man video game ever produced. And while Miguel's explanation of the canon events only cover the most plot-relevant ones, namely being bitten by an enhanced spider and the death of a beloved family member and police captain, the holographic display shows many others, both original comic panels and variations featuring the other spider people. They include freeing oneself from a pile of rubble, briefly renouncing the Spider-Man identity and throwing away the costume, losing a Gwen Stacy, encountering the Venom symbiote, and quote, hitting the jackpot / sharing an upside down kiss / getting married to a Mary Jane. In addition, Spectacular Spider-Man is shown cradling a mattress in his canon event as opposed to his Gwen. When Miles loses his day pass while escaping from Miguel, he starts to glitch out, and for a frame you see Miles wearing the cheap Halloween Spider-Man costume he wore when he and Peter B. Parker infiltrated Alchemex in the first film. And later, when he glitches out in Earth 42 walking up the stairs behind Uncle Aaron, he's briefly seen holding the cake boxes from earlier in this film. When Miles and the spiders are chasing him through the spider therapist's office, on the left side of the screen you can see the therapist's diploma, revealing that he is Ezekiel Sims, one of the villains of Madam Web, and that he graduated from Ditko University. And then lastly, when the Spot is revealing his backstory, there's a brief animated scene showing the Spider 42 being teleported from its original universe. In the scene, you can very briefly see that Spider 42 was crawling on Miles G. Morales' desk and about to bite him, suggesting that Miles Morales 42 was supposed to be the Spider-Man of that universe.
Wow.
Yep. All right, so that's what I've got. Let's dive into thoughts. So yeah, Logan, kick us off. What did you think of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? I don't know if we've talked about Across the Spider-Verse.
We haven't. I liked it.
Yeah.
I think that it is... I don't even know... The word that keeps coming back to me whenever I think about it is just, it's an a lot movie. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of information being thrown at you. There's a lot of different ideas. And, you know, there's an argument to be made that Into the Spider-Verse is not the most simple movie in the world. And this movie sort of ratchets it up to like 11 in a lot of its ideas and complexities.
Sure.
And it's doing a lot. It also has sort of the unfortunate hand to sort of be a bridge between the beginning and end of the story, and so it's setting up a lot of stuff that it doesn't remotely resolve. Mm-hmm. The movie ends essentially on a cliffhanger, right? Yeah. And so that obviously will affect the movie as a whole.
Yeah, it's always fascinating because I absolutely see that point. It's like, we obviously did a summer of Star Wars. Imagine leaving the theater of Empire Strikes Back and like trying to identify that as a standalone film in this kind of conversation. It I have so many Empire Strikes Back vibes in watching this, where I think both Empire Strikes Back and this movie do tell a complete story in terms of like character arcs and stuff like that, but obviously, yes, there are looming threats on the horizon and things that still need to be resolved and tied up.
I think for me, we just don't know, right? I think part of it is that looking back at Empire Strikes Back now, you have the benefit of knowing what Return of the Jedi does, and so you sort of see Empire Strikes Back as a more fully formed standalone movie on its own right.
Yep.
Versus you can look at things like, I think Attack of the Clones is less successful as a standalone movie, or even
Last Jedi.
Exactly, even Last Jedi, which doesn't really make sense at all now. I mean, the sequel trilogy doesn't really make any sense, but like that movie is so affected by what follows it that it sort of undercuts that movie. And so without knowing how the story ends, it's sort of left in a more ambiguous place until summer 2027, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Jedi is probably like one of my favorite modern examples where like obviously I am a known defender and lover of Last Jedi, right. And yeah, it does get weaker because of how J.J. Abrams decides to follow up on some of those plot threads, and I do not like it as much because I know what's to come, and so so Last Jedi is very much one where I'm like, let me just in my head canon, in the way that you kind of like your Luke Skywalker story ends with Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, very happy.
My story of the Star Wars saga and the Skywalker saga kind of I would prefer it end at Last Jedi.
Just to be clear, I also have the 8 movies of the Skywalker saga end with the actual last movie of the Skywalker saga, which is The Last Jedi. Despite my issues with it, it is obviously the last movie of that series, and so there is no 9th film.
Yeah. Palpatine returns? What? No, never.
What are you talking about? Yeah. That would be ludicrous.
That worked for the comic book series in the 80s. It doesn't work for modern cinema.
It didn't. Some would say it didn't work then either. It's always been bad.
Anyway, back to Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
We don't need to completely go down that tangent, but that is definitely.
So
and I found myself
every time we talk about this, we get back to Star Wars.
Yeah, it was very much when I rewatched this again because I will absolutely jump out there and Into the Spider-Verse, my favorite movie of all time. I watched it 9 times in theaters, and I watched Across the Spider-Verse also many times in theaters and enjoyed it a ton and still continue to enjoy it. I prefer Into the Spider-Verse certainly more, but I did leave, and I continue to think that the Spider-Verse trilogy has the potential to become my new favorite trilogy if they can stick the landing. And hopefully the time they're putting into it means that they care as much about sticking the landing as well. But from the 2 movies alone, even if it bombs, I still love these 2 movies very, very much.
Yeah.
And the stories we get with Miles and Gwen and Miles in particular, his personal growth in this story of him kind of coming into his own in confidence, and the idea that he has of he wants nothing more at the beginning of this movie than to reunite with his friends. He's changed his career path, and that's what he's really driving towards, as we see in his little guidance counselor scene, and then for that to not turn out the way he wants it to, and he has kind of his mom, ringing in the back of his head, and we get that, the closure of Miles's arc for me in this movie is him telling his mom, "I'm Spider-Man," even though it ends up not being the right universe version of his mom, but the fact that he's ready to share that part of himself with the people that he loves the most is, I think, kind of where he goes in this film. And then we also have very much Gwen's kind of the co-protagonist of this film. Obviously, we have her opening kind of giving us a bit more glimpse into her backstory and the things she's struggling with. So I like that her arc is about, starts out, she always does it alone. She's not really good. She's never found the right band. And we see her putting together the team and her own band at the end of the film to help Miles with what's next. So I very much like the character arcs of the film, while yes, the Spot thread is kind of left unresolved in this one. But I interrupted you, Logan. Any other thoughts you want to jump in on?
No, I mean, I think, to me, I feel like this will probably be my least favorite film of the trilogy. But also, that's damning it with pretty mighty praise, right? And I also think, to the comment you made of depending on if the third film in this trilogy sticks landing, it'll be your favorite trilogy of all time. But even if it doesn't, it's still incredible. I would argue trilogies are hard, right?
Sure.
As we've seen very recently with Star Wars. But, the original trilogy of Star Wars is this weird lightning in a bottle much more than it is the rule for how trilogies work, right? And especially a story that wasn't necessarily meant to be a trilogy, right? They didn't really know what they had on their hands with Into the Spider-Verse, right? They were like, this might be cool to do things. We kind of leave a tease for something more, but they had no real idea that it would erupt in the way that it did, right? And so, even when you think of like all-time great trilogies like Indiana Jones, as me and Trevor can attest to, one of those three movies is not very good and is very racist.
Yeah, I think Cameron's firmly in that camp too, with Temple of Doom being bad.
And so I couldn't remember if you were on that pod, and that's why I didn't want to. But it's
I was there.
Yeah,
I was there.
Trilogies are difficult, right? It's hard to make one good movie, let alone three good movies in a row.
Because it's always you make the first movie and you've given those characters hopefully a satisfying arc, and you can't just do it all over again. It's why in Back to the Future suddenly Marty cares about being called chicken in parts 2 and 3, which was never a part of his character in the first one, and that's all because actually the real protagonist of the first movie is George McFly, and Marty's just kind of a bystander. So they had to we can't just do all of that again. I think that's always the struggle.
Yeah, and so for me, it's a thing of I'm okay with it being my potentially favorite film in the trilogy because I still think it's a really great movie, right? Into the Spider-Verse I don't love as much as Trevor does, but I think it is so obviously a really special piece of filmmaking and a really incredible story. And I don't know. I mean, I think, we talked about whenever we did all of our Spider-Man viewings, however many years ago that was, I talked a lot about how special Spider-Man 2 is for me. And I think just our generation a lot. And I think what it meant to be Spider-Man and what he represents and what it means to be a hero. And I think Into the Spider-Verse did a lot of that for a new, younger generation. And I think just as Spider-Man 2 is still sort of this movie that is revered and so special, I think Into the Spider-Verse will be in 20 years' time as well. And it's hard to follow up movies like that, right? This is sort of why I think whenever we talk about the Dark Knight trilogy, I always make the point of, I think Dark Knight Rises has issues, but I also think that almost literally no matter what that movie would have been, it wouldn't have been The Dark Knight, right? It's just hard to follow up that, right? And so I think there's an element of that here. Visually, though, it's just as incredible to look at and watch. And it is, I think, still these two movies together maybe the most visually arresting and stunning animated films I've ever seen. I certainly think the level of complexity and detail and small, minute things happen on the screen, like the spider Trevor talked about right on the desk. There's so much attention being paid to every single moment, and they're breaking rules of animation that I didn't even know existed, and like opening whole new frontiers. And so in that vein, from a technical perspective, it is just as impressive and incredible, even if some of the story beats don't work for me as much. I think part of that might be the villain here. The villains I don't necessarily vibe with as much as what we got Into the Spider-Verse, and obviously Into the Spider-Verse sort of builds this really beautiful crescendo and the jump and everything that follows there, right? And also you get, I think for me in Into the Spider-Verse, it is unquestionably a Miles Morales story, but it's also, the co-lead of that movie, I would argue, just as much is Peter Parker still, right?
Yeah.
And you get a lot less of him here.
Yeah.
He's just less of a central presence, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is an absence that is felt, I think, in moments for me, especially as someone who admittedly is a Peter Parker Spider-Man fan, right? That's a Spider-Man I know. And so I love the version of him as like a more grown-up, world-weary, beaten down Peter B. Parker that he is. Yeah. And that is missing from this movie in a way that it wasn't in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to what we were just talking about, where like Peter B. Parker's, he gets his complete arc. Like he ends Into the Spider-Verse, like we see it in this film, like ready to be a dad. He kind of makes up with MJ and he's doing great. So he doesn't have anywhere he needs to go in this movie. So he does just kind of pop in and pop out. So yeah, his arc suffers because we gave him his arc in the last movie.
Right. They didn't know there was going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like he had his happily ever after ending in a lot of ways, right?
Yep. So he just kind of gets to be now more the mentor and sidekick a little bit more to Miles's story as a whole, and also pseudo antagonist of like he was, he knew what Miguel was up to and he knew why Miles wasn't part of this whole thing. So it ends up being that tension between those two characters that now needs to get resolved, and we need to see them kind of make nice again, a little bit again, like maybe he's the. Is he the Lando of this one? Kind of, maybe.
In a way, yeah.
That's an interesting.
Yeah. A good friend betraying you, kind of like if also Yoda betrayed Luke in Empire. Yeah. Because like important mentor / thing, but
right.
Yeah.
The problem is, the Empire parallel is tough because both of those characters were not characters in the first movie. So it's like, that doesn't really. It would be more of like Han betrayed Luke or something like that in this one. Or I guess it would really be like Obi-Wan if Obi-Wan turned out to be kind of a bad guy.
What if Obi-Wan lied about your dad?
I guess he does. I guess maybe he is the Obi-Wan character of this one, where his arc happened in the first movie, and here the big conflict is you lied about my father. What the hell? Anyway, what are your thoughts here, Cam?
I love this movie. I think this movie is great. Granted, like, I think on paper, when you write it out, Into the Spider-Verse is a better movie. Top to bottom, full arcs, full coming into your own. You get the tragedy at the beginning of this guy's gonna be your mentor, and then tragedy happens, and that's ripped away from him, and now he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Miles's arc is all about coming into what it means to take that leap. Even if you're not ready, even if you take a little bit of the glass with you when you take that leap. It's about making that decision to leap into the action, to be the hero. And this is a movie where we see he's established himself as a hero, but now we get the whole, how do you balance your life with other things? And he has the full confidence of being Spider-Man, and how is that hurting his life as Miles Morales? And it's kind of him making the decision that being Miles Morales is more important than being Spider-Man. That's his story, that's his arc here. Where I think this movie shines is in its choice to embrace Gwen as a dual protagonist. We get her perspective. Let's take it from the top. We see her with the Mary Janes, and we see it's not that she doesn't fit in anywhere. It's that she doesn't. It's her perspective that she doesn't fit in. The Mary Janes love her, but there's conflict because she can't. She's not capable of working as a teammate because she has her hangups and her trauma that she refuses to deal with. And it's detrimental to, it's how a trauma, if you leave it untreated, infects and breaks apart and destroys other parts of your life. Right. And it was. And all joining the Spider Society did was give her an out. And her journey through this movie is realizing, dealing with your trauma, processing it, and making good and reestablishing your relationships. But it also is and I want to point this out, this is getting a little political and I apologize, but it's also a story about her father. Yeah. Choosing that being a police officer is not more important than being a father, even if your child's a vigilante. There is the incredible, intentional or not, the parallels to the trans identity that a lot of trans people have ascribed to Gwen Stacy's story. you can look it up. There's a lot of articles about it and everything that came out when the movie came out that people are like, is this a trans allegory? Intentional or not, I think it works beautifully well. And the culmination of Gwen's father's full acceptance of who Gwen is and her identity and her secret identity is such a... And it goes back to how superheroes and secret identities have always kind of been really amazing allegories for LGBTQIA plus stories or like perspectives, and the lens that can lend onto a superhero story. So I think this film is able to do that. I think that this film is able to bring in and show the diversity of the larger Spider-Man universe and how outright silly and anybody who's like, well, I can't believe that you made this so and so. It's like, it's everything. It's everything that you could possibly imagine. It's here. We have T-Rex, tiny arm thwip.
Yeah, T-Whip.
T-Whip, that's right. T-Whip. You have all of that. So there's no, like, oh, we're going to do a spotlight on this. Well, what about, it's like, they're there, don't worry about it. Shout out to Hobie Brown, Spider-Punk, making his film debut. They made him British. They got one of my favorite actors of all time to play him. He is everything I could have wanted him to be and more. I have been a massive fan of him since I read the Spider-Geddon tie-in where they gave him his own solo issue, and he and Captain Anarchy, which is like the Captain America punk version, are like do a team up, and it's awesome. I love Hobie Brown. I love Spider-Punk as an identity, as like this idea, and the fact that they made him British zine or like British punk zine from like the 80s and 90s, as that's his animation style, like his pages he's pulled from those pages, is incredible. And also the fact that he is an instigator. He is 100% like, yeah, I'm not really part of the society, and I'm actively sabotaging it because it's interdimensional cops, basically.
Yeah, it's a little fascist.
It's pretty fascist. Miguel's pretty fascist. Don't get me wrong. Sorry, messed up his name.
Oscar Isaac.
Thank you. Jason Isaacs, gosh. Oscar Isaacs can do whatever he wants to me. Step on me, bite me, tear me apart, throw me up against a train. I will let that man do it. But he's a fascist. And he's a literal vampire.
Yeah, I do love that bit in the Gutenberg sequence at the beginning where like the police are like put him down. He's like, I'm the good guy. You don't look like a good guy. You just gotta believe me. Like, yeah, because we see him, doing the we see that like silhouette of him about to bite down on the neck of the vulture kind of thing.
Yep. But yeah, I think that this movie is fantastic. I love it. I literally just had it on in the background while I was working today. I've seen this movie like 12 times.
We went and saw it. We saw it performed live.
Yeah.
The music performed.
The music was performed live in front of us with an orchestra. It was just awesome. This entire film is awesome. But I think the weaker part about it is it's a lot. They have widened the scope tremendously.
Yeah.
And it's a massive risk. It's a big gamble. I think it pays off, but it does leave it, because it's so broad and less focused, we're not getting the fullness that you get into the Spider-Verse. The intimate storytelling that you get with Into the Spider-Verse. From beginning to end, that is an intimate, tight story. Right. And Across Spider-Verse has these tight, incredible moments, but they are stretched further between each, or there's more distance between them as the film carries on. And I think it ends on a great note of Gwen finding her team, building her band. Not Miguel, sorry.
Miles.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Trevor. Miles, coming to terms with, I have to do my own thing. I want to be part of this thing. And also, I read an amazing article years ago about, a few years ago. It's only 2025. The movie came out in 2023. But I read an article a few years ago about how Miles' journey through this is a lot of how young black youth see white culture through the lens of like white culture and like white society as a whole. of like, oh, I want to be part, like the country club, all this stuff. And then finally, when it comes time to it, it's like, no, like he makes that choice. And that was a really cool article. I'm not claiming that. That's a very, like, I forgot who wrote it. Shout out to all the people who wrote the pieces that I've referenced here and how I feel about this movie. This movie did such an amazing job of speaking to the culture of nerd culture, black culture, queer culture, punk culture, this kind of crossover of the cultural zeitgeist. That would not have been possible without Into the Spider-Verse, but Across the Spider-Verse, I think, is a shot across the bow of like, we are ready, like animated superhero movies are ready to tell these sorts of allegories and these sorts of stories and this level of storytelling. Into the Spider-Verse wasn't a fluke. We know what we're doing.
Yeah, I think where Into the Spider-Verse thrives, as we've all kind of touched on its focus of, okay, all these other characters come into Miles' story and tell that. And Across the Spider-Verse thinks much bigger. And so, yeah, we go to Gwen's world, we go to Moonbatten, we go to Nueva York, 2099. And so like this very much breaks outside of the bounds of the first movie. And I love how each of those other universes that we go to is a wildly different art style. And so very, like, from a technical perspective, this movie is leaps and bounds ahead of the first one, while still honoring what came before it. And yeah, I think there's like, I always liken the Alchemex sequence of the first movie. It is a flawless 15 minutes of film. It's got great action. It's got great comedy. It's great animation. It's got a great surprise reveal of Doc Ock in that sequence. It's like just a perfect encapsulation of that movie as a whole. And of course, you have also anchoring Into the Spider-Verse the "What's Up, Danger" sequence, which is untouchable. This movie doesn't have moments to that level, but like I mean, from a just a musical perspective, I listen to like the soundtrack, the Daniel Pemberton soundtrack of the whole opening 15 minutes of this, basically everything in Gwen's world up through the Guggenheim stuff. I listen to that. Like, if I had a Spotify playlist, like, that would easily be like 90% of what my playlist was in 2023, because I just listened to Guggenheim Assemble on repeat, and love that sequence in the same way that I love like the "What's Up, Danger" stuff, and throwing in there the beautiful watercolor visuals of Gwen's world as a stark contrast to the more traditional animation art style of Miles's world. But then also you get the dark twist of Miles's world in Earth 42 when we go there. We get the bright colors of Moonbatten when we're over there, and then like the future tech of Nueva York. I love all of those different looks and feels, and how, and that's not even counting, the 240 plus spider people, many of whom, shout out to Chris Anka of in the Kind of Funny community, being one of the primary animators and character designers of this film. But yeah, like Hobie's art style, of course. Like I hope there is a moment in Beyond the Spider-Verse where we go to Hobie's universe and see that crazy zine kind of art style, just to see what that's going to look like and see what that embodies in person. But outside of that, we get like the other cool new spider people in this, as you touched on, Cam. Like the breadth of diversity in this film is great. And we were joking before that like the your friendly neighborhood Spider Man being the most woke Spider-Man show. It's like, actually this one, thinking about it, probably gives it a great run for its money.
It does.
With like even the spider person in the wheelchair kind of chasing after Miles and saying like, do you think we rely too much on a crutch? Like, I love that version of Spider-Man that we get in this, little, image moment of this, that doesn't take away from any other Spider-Man. I mean, like the Spider Society very much leans into like Gwen being like, hi Peter, hi Peter, hi Peter. They're all Peters. So many of them are Peters, and it's so few, non-Peter Parker Spider-Man that we really see in this. But we still get to see the Spider-Verse branch out into these other characters, into Penny, into Miguel, into Miles, obviously Hobie, like all of these different iterations of what that looks like. I very much like they teased and joked after the first one really started to take off that we're gonna see the live action Japanese Spider-Man in one of these sequels. He obviously wasn't in this one, so maybe he's going to show up in Beyond the Spider-Verse. But
I hope so. I enjoy that show, even though it's not good.
It's they have done the multiverse obviously significantly better than the Marvel stuff. Marvel cinematic stuff has done it proper.
Right.
And like, I mean, the only other real competitor for me ends up being Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that one's, I think, does it in such a unique style in and of itself that, like, I'm not going to say one of these is better than the other. It's like whatever your taste is. I love that we have a live action, great multiverse stuff in that, and I love that we have a great animated version in this. But yeah, so, like, I was all too happy to go see this movie multiple times in theaters, and then immediately buy it and watch it multiple times on my Blu-ray, and I'll sometimes just throw it onto Movies Anywhere, kind of on my iPad while I'm playing a game or something like that. Obviously, when it comes to Disney Plus, I'm immediately gonna make a reason to do a podcast for it. So absolutely, like, love it and a huge fan of it, and I think it has so much, like, even as it kind of grows its scope and takes us to all these different places, so much of it is still trying to keep Miles at its core, and kind of build up Miles's, like, network and build up Miles's community, which both his community back home, his parents. I love his parents in this film. Like, we get so much more of Miles Rio and Jeff in fun ways, and I love seeing them interact with other people in Miles' life that we didn't necessarily get in the last film. I will agree that Spot, because we only have like half of a Spot in this movie, is still unfinished. But I also love, as somebody who didn't really know about the villain Spot prior to this, I love that even Spot has his own kind of, like, arc here of, like, I love that they retcon him to be the one that got hit by the bagel. I love that they retcon him to be the one who brought the spider into this universe. So it is kind of this, like, you created me and I created you situation. But I love that the thing that really gets him is that it's this is the second time I've made this reference to Cameron in, like, 2 days. The fight that he has at the beginning of this movie with Spider-Man is, like, the biggest moment of his life, and for Miles, it's a Tuesday.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh!
it's the Street Fighter M. Bison bit.
We'll talk about the first one next week.
Yeah, like he puts his all into it, and then he gets so distraught and disheartened by the fact that Miles treats him like a joke, and I love that ends up being the thing that kind of spurs him to become the nemesis and the supervillain and whatnot. And I think he's got a cool power too. The like, from an animation perspective, especially, all the stuff that's happening in the convenience store and his limbs going, in all these different holes, the places that the holes take them, around the city, including Jeff kind of getting sucked into it and, fearing for his life. It makes for a very fun, perspective for this particular art form that, I think it would be very tough to do this, villain in live action well. So I think it's a perfect case of the villain meeting the medium. And I like that, he's kind of, like, twisted and darkened, and he, has this moment where he becomes the darkest version in the darkest timeline and knows exactly how he's going to hurt Peter and all that, or Miles. And that feeding into this whole idea of the canon and the unavoidable things in every Spider-Man's life, and Miles basically being like, I'm not going to accept that. Like, Miles' refusal to just accept the status quo and break out of there, because come hell or high water, he wants to save his dad. I love that. So that's me gushing about it. Any favorite moments or anything anybody wants to shout out before we dive into some of the segments and grading and all that stuff?
I already kind of covered it, but anything Hobie Brown.
Anything Hobie Brown.
Anything.
Like, Hobie is so much fun. He comes in, to your point, I love him being like, do it with your, like, don't just use the fingertips, do it with your full palm, and then him very much reinforcing that when
palm
Miles
out.
is like trapped later on.
Dude, and like the bickering where what's her name says, Hobie, you're not helping. Good,
yeah.
Like his asides, his everything he does, everything
By the way,
is so.
And he like drops his band and leaves.
Yep.
Yeah.
But also he's picking up pieces of technology because he's putting together Gwen's that'll come up later. But I think one of my favorite parts is clearly there's something going on, whether platonic or not platonic, with between him and Gwen, and that's clearly like Miles is jealous, and it gets to the point where he's like, okay, well he's not that, like, he's cool, but whatever, you know. And then Hobie takes off his mask. And he goes, how are you even cooler without your mask? And he goes, I was this cool the whole time.
Yeah.
Just the confidence, the performance that's being done vocally is incredible. The animation being done for the moment, his curl, like his locks come out. It's just so damn good. But I love, like from the moment he just realizes, I was like, oh, you the way you control electricity is that palm out.
Yeah.
Like,
his relationship with Mayday, taking a crap on the establishment. I salute you.
Like, so good. Like, he's the best. He's my favorite. Like, Spider-Punk aesthetically has always, like, the costume from Spider-Man, Sony PlayStation Spider-Man 1. I rocked that the entire time.
Your default, yeah.
Yeah. And just everything about this, like, from the outfit aesthetically to the character to this comics to the movie, anything Hobie Brown. Like, I'm sad Marvel Rivals made a Spider-Punk 2099 costume, and I'm like, that's cool and all. I don't play Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals. I don't really want to spend that money because I don't main Spider-Man, but if I did, I would be playing that all the time. Also, they should have just made Hobie Brown his own character. I don't care if we already have enough Spider characters in it. I want Hobie Brown. Give me Spider-Punk. Anyway,
sure. Any favorite moments you want to call out there, Logan?
I mean,
or anything, obviously, like, I think we do all very much like this, but if there are any moments that you're like, I think this was actually one of the weaker elements of the film. We don't do it as much, but the segment is favorite moments or least favorite moments.
I feel like we went over the least favorite. I mean, I think Moonbatten is just really incredible. And like Spider-Man India and like that design and
this is where the traffic is. This is where the traffic is. This is where the traffic. This is where the British stole all our stuff.
It's just a really great character. I mean, really my favorite Cameron sort of stole, which is just all of the different Spider people and Spider-Punk among them, but also, like, I think Spider-Man India is really great and has such a unique personality that is utterly theirs, despite the fact that they are one of thousands of Peter Parker Spider-Man knockoffs, essentially.
They are the like fresh Spider-Man that hasn't seen the tragedy of an Uncle Ben death or a Captain Stacy death and that stuff. So he is like, everything's perfect for me. I wake out of bed like this. I don't try. I'm good. Everything's great for me.
And I also think that, like, it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to be original while also being a copycat, essentially, right? And I think that Peter Parker knockoff Spider-Man in particular does it really well and stands in their own right. And I think the point you make too of it being, I mean, in some ways it's the Spider-Man in this movie that is most like Tom Holland's Spider-Man in terms of, kind of more carefree, and he hasn't really had trauma yet, and I really enjoy that, and I think it's a fun duo. I like Gwen a lot in this movie, like Cameron said. Her arc is less fun, but really well done, I think, and really well handled. And then I just think that there are far too many, an infinite number of gags and quick one-liners and throwaway comedic beats to name, but the movie's very funny. And just like Into the Spider-Verse, it's very funny, and I think that is something that I want to almost been like a beat on, is that Peter Parker is supposed to be funny, and Spider-Man's supposed to be funny and whimsical, and there is even with how serious he is, because again, I think he is one of the more grounded and relatable and realistic superheroes. He's also one who should have some sort of like lightheartedness to him as well, and a sense of humor, and I think these movies capture that really well in a way that maybe none of the other Spider-Man movies have fully, right? I mean, Amazing Spider-Man tried to, and that didn't land for me. And Tom Holland's, I think, wasn't really funny. He was almost more just sort of like so pure and early into it. Tom Holland's Spider-Man just doesn't have an edge to him. I don't really know anyone that would argue that, right? And there are lots of Spider-Mans in this movie who have an edge to them and who have snarky senses of humor and funny one-liners, and there's a lot happening, and I think...
I mean, they call out the fact that Miguel is the one that isn't funny, and Spider-Man is supposed to be funny.
I was sort of going to that point. Like, I think this movie has a weird, like, have its cake and eat it too, somehow, of like simultaneously having a million jokes, throw everything at the wall, see what sticks approach to sense of humor, and also having basically all of them land, which seems like it shouldn't happen. It seems like those are two different comedic approaches, but it somehow merges them together and is just having so many jokes land constantly that you can barely keep up with it. You do have to watch it multiple times to like appreciate it. And I think not every movie is a movie that you can watch multiple times and get new appreciations out of and new enjoyments out of. And I think whatever issues I might have with this unquestionably is that kind of movie where you do, I think, peel back something new every time you watch it, or spot something new, or catch something new, or get a new appreciation for it. Because sort of no matter where you are in your life, there's a Spider-Man in this movie who is at that point in their life that you can sort of relate to and identify with, whether it's Peter B. Parker or Miles or Spider-Man India or Spider-Punk or whoever the other 500 in this movie that I didn't name, Spider-Ham. And I think that...
Ben Reilly, if you want to be super angsty.
Yeah, and I think there's just something to that, right? Like, I think, while I think the movies can be a little unfocused at times, I also think that it is opening it up so broadly, like Cameron said, that there's also something here for a really broad array of people, which is also exciting.
Much like the first film, you get the benefit of like Spider-Man quipping on other Spider-Men. So you get all of them telling the quips of one another, as opposed to so many of the other live actions where, it's only one guy and he's always quipping against his villains or something like that. This is like I love the Hobie line of like, oh great, it's depressing universe Spider-Man when Peter B. Parker comes in, and or depressing reality Spider-Man or whatever. And so we everybody kind of making their like spot quips and stuff, like, oh, see spot, and then be like, oh, anybody else want to make jokes? And you just see a bunch of text box pop up from everybody saying their little jokes as they walk through the halls and stuff like that.
So good.
Those are absolutely the like blink and you'll miss it kind of little moments.
T-Whip, literally one of the best ones.
Yeah. And so so much fun throughout this. I love the web slinger being like, all right, on 3, draw 1. You didn't wait till 3. It is an endless run of humor, and it has a significantly higher than it should batting average in terms of the things that land. They're like, oh, let me guess, did he die? And then everybody comes through in the therapy office. Just absolute like silliness and humor, but also the heart, as Cameron touched on earlier, like like Miles luring everybody away and taking this bullet train up and deciding like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Wait, like you guys were in on this, like you knew. Like Miles being the original anomaly and kind of that being why he's
the twist,
the outcast and all that stuff. And and that splitting him apart from Miles, from Gwen and Peter B, to do his own thing. Absolutely love. And I also love, we didn't spend a ton of time talking about it, but I love the way Miles's bit ends of he goes back to what he thinks is his own universe, but is Earth 42, getting to see Uncle Aaron again. I love that I told Cameron this, like, when we got out of the movie the first time. I love that it lets the characters all be smart enough to immediately understand what's happened. Like, Miles glitches, and so he immediately knows he's in the wrong universe. Gwen doesn't find Miles there, so she puts together that he's in the wrong universe. He went back to, Earth 42. And despite, Miles's concerns about that, the way he immediately, drops his guard and is just so happy to see Uncle Aaron again. And we get that beautiful moment of Mahershala Ali coming in and the two of them having the handshake and the Earth 42, splash on the screen. And I love this setting up. The rumors, I'll be very curious to see how this plays out, but the rumors based on some deleted scenes seem to be, the movie obviously puts them in the context that we know of Prowler and what Prowler means to Miles, but it's also in a very dark universe. There's a whole bunch of Sinister Six signs, and we hear kind of on the the news coverage, J. Jonah Jameson saying who's going to stand up to the Sinister Six cartels or something like that.
There's also
so the rumors are very much that that Miles G. Morales as Prowler is basically still a good vigilante. He just doesn't have Spider-Man's powers. So he's out there fighting for his community and fighting for his people. And maybe we'll see that the footage I remember seeing kind of put, some of the original ideas were that this Uncle Aaron and Miles were kind of in a Batman and Robin vigilante,
Batman
dark
Alfred
kind of
thing,
side of things. That didn't test as well, so they just kind of made Miles the Prowler, but it still seems like that's the direction they might be leaning. So we'll see kind of if we have a Miles on Miles team up against the Sinister Six before he goes back into doing, the Spot stuff in the next movie or something like that. We'll see.
I love how he's like, I'm Miles Morales, the rolling R's, and it's like, yep, this is
But you can call me the Prowler.
Prowler.
Yeah.
It's just the Prowler mask, everything is so cool. But I knew it was immediately when I first watched it, and every single time since then, you can tell immediately he's not in the right New York because of how just degraded that the New York in Universe 42 is.
I think they do
everything's
a good
run
job.
down, everything's worn, everything's also a little saturated to it, a little dark grim to it. So it's immediately you can tell something's off.
They do a good job of masking it though, because we also have Miguel's crew hunting Miles, and it is dark and rainy in Miles's real universe too. So it is they're not trying to hide it too much, but they're hiding it enough that it might still be a surprise to people in that moment when when Miles's mom is like, Spider who?
Yep.
But again, I love that moment isn't that moment can still land because he's said I showed them all. I remembered what you said and I showed them all. And Miles standing up for himself against that Spider Society. And then, it's just kind of is this Comics Con playing into that? And Miles again is I don't know what that is, playing into the joke from the first movie of save it for Comic Con. What? So apparently there just isn't a Comic Con in Miles' universe.
Yep.
But so much fun here. Any final thoughts before we dive into the report card?
I'm good.
All right, then let's go ahead and I'll kick this off. An easy A+ for me, where we grade from A+ to F. I absolutely love Across the Spider-Verse, and while I very much still love Into the Spider-Verse more, both of them are A+ for me, easily, hands down. Cam, what do you want to give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
A+, whip.
All right, Logan, how about you?
I'll give it a B. I really like it. That sounds bad, but it's not. A B is great. I really like it. I think it's really good. I'm very excited to see where they go from here. A B to B plus actually, but that general area.
You'll be able to really give a firm commitment once you see how the story ends. How does this story
in 2027? Yeah. No, but I think it's just below Into the Spider-Verse. We'll get to the ranking for the Spider-Man movies in a second, and you'll kind of see, I think, that correlate with my ranking. But it is still a really, really great superhero film.
Yeah. So back to our little segments. I pulled up kind of where we left off back after Spider-Man Far From Home. We have our cast of our Sinister Six, where we ranked the villains across the films.
Our Sinister Six of 12 villains.
Yeah, exactly. So our number 12 was Rhino. The number 11 was Venom, which would have been Spider-Man 3 Venom, because that's the only one that has appeared in any of the things we talked about. Number 10 was Sandman. Number 9 was the Green Goblin from the Amazing Spider-Man films. Number 8,
we said that he was better than Sandman? That's crazy.
We were
down bad on Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 3 did not fare well.
No,
Sure.
Like it fares a little bit better with. We'll get to it. But yeah, Amazing Green Goblin was number 9. Electro was number 8. Bully Maguire was number 7. Lizard was number 6 from the first Amazing Spider-Man. New Goblin, aka Harry in Venom, fares the best, and he fared the best because he had 3 movies of build-up.
Yeah. Harry's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 4 was Mysterio from Far From Home. Number 3, the Green Goblin. Number 2, Vulture from Homecoming. And number 1, Doc Ock. I have Spot and potentially Miguel, Spider-Man 99, as he's the other big antagonist in here. But I'm fine if we just want to do Spot. Any hits on where we want to put Spot from that list?
It's tricky because, sort of tapping into the theme of this, we've only gotten half of his story.
Yeah.
So it's hard to... It's like when we did Davy Jones for, like, Dead Man's Chest, and we were only halfway there, and it's hard to, like, rank...
I blocked that out of my mind. I forgot that. I blocked that we even reviewed those or watched those.
I remember that we did the Pirates movies.
Hopefully, that was a great time. I had a really good time. Hopefully Spot doesn't become...
It was one great week, and then 4 bad.
Yeah, it was just... oh, God.
And hopefully Spot doesn't immediately get sidelined in the third movie and become like a tertiary villain like Davy Jones.
Sure.
But I would say, God, New Goblin Lizard territory is sort of where my mind.
Yeah, I would probably put him at number 5. Or no, I put him at number 6. I think
above Lizard, below New Goblin.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I think that sounds like. I mean, I would probably put him rank him higher, but that's just my affinity for Spider-Verse above everything else.
I think in the next film, he might do a Spot slip up to like maybe 4th or 3rd.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It just depends.
It'd also be very, like, obviously, we have not ranked it because we didn't do it, but like Kingpin in Into the Spider-Verse, I would rank very high on this list because I love that villain and that arc and all that stuff.
But of course, we have to wait for it to come to a Disney Plus streaming service before
here
we can do that,
in the US.
Kingpin's interesting because my initial reaction on Kingpin would be 2 or 3. Is sort of where
I'd put him a little lower. I'd probably rank him around 3 or 4 for me personally. But that's just because I think that, like, the top 3 we have are, like...
The top 3 is great.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say one villain killed his Spider-Man. Doc Ock didn't do that. So,
No, but Doc Ock held the power of the sun in the palm of his hand!
Doc Ock is great. Yeah,
sure.
Doc Ock is great.
Anyway...
Alfred Molina really takes that over for that one. So.
We had, in the previous run of things, we had cameos for, Bruce Campbell cameos and of course, Stan Lee cameos. Unfortunately, we are here in the post-Stan Lee's passing era, so there is no Stan Lee cameo in this film. So then we'll dive into kind of the full rankings. So far, we have not yet ranked No Way Home or Into the Spider-Verse, but our 7 film rankings are as follows. Number 7, Spider-Man 3. Number 6, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Number 5, The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 4, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 3, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 2, Spider-Man. And number 1, Spider-Man 2.
I just realized we haven't done No Way Home yet either. That's also very interesting.
Yep.
Well, it's not on streaming yet, so.
Yep. Yeah. That's still
crazy.
It's probably out there on Netflix. Like Sony likes to make their money on other streaming services because they don't have their own. So I'm sure it will eventually make its way to Disney Plus. But yeah, it is.
We'll have to do a special
got a first
thing
run out there.
Make an allowance where we get them. But all right.
So I'll throw it to you guys because for me, like the Spider-Verse one's easily past the Raimi stuff, so this would be an easy number one for me. But I know that y'all like Sam Raimi stuff far more than I do. So where would you put Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? Where would you throw it in consideration here, Logan?
It's tricky because part of the beauty of doing these rankings as a collective is that
the rankings don't line up with your personal rankings.
Yeah, they're not like any one person's ranking by design. It's that there's some beauty in that. I like my instinctive is somewhere around Homecoming, because I think Homecoming would be my second favorite of the Tom Holland movies. This is my second favorite of the Spider-Verse movies so far. I think they both are doing really interesting things. I like Vulture a lot. I mean, Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton, right?
Yeah.
And I think Homecoming does a lot of really interesting things. This is a lot of really interesting, expansive things. I mean, it's just such a hard movie to rank, especially in comparison to like
the live action stuff.
Film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so difficult to compare the two. But my instinct is kind of draws me to like somewhere around Homecoming, right?
Okay. Cameron, you've been doing like a meditative prayer pose. Where are you thinking?
Number 2.
Number 2, you would put this between Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, given that I would put it easily at number 1, I think yours, you split the difference there between me and Logan. So I would say either
I'm okay with that.
at number 2 or just below Spider-Man, at number 3 above Homecoming. But yeah, I think we'll go with kind of that splitting the difference. Split the Sam Raimi pair with
I'm okay
some
with
in Across the Spider-Verse. Still gives some room for both No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse to come in here and rise up the ranks even further. So
what was that old The Rock said about his Shazam movie, Black Adam movie?
The hierarchy of the power hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Yeah, that but applied to this list when we finally get these last 2 movies in.
Sure. You know what's funny is that I've been on a Pierce Brosnan kick lately because, of course, I have.
Cool,
shocking.
And I've like just been like I've been like watching like really like mediocre movies that he's done on like Netflix with like Adam Devine and stuff. But I have never seen Black Adam, and that'll be an interesting one to experience, especially in the context of like how that movie ends and what they sort of teased, and then the fact that
it goes nowhere. Yeah,
he was in a movie with Adam Devine.
He was. It's on Netflix. It's like The Misfits, I think, something like that, where basically he is the soon-to-be father-in-law of Adam Devine's character, who is a bank manager, and Pierce Brosnan is basically like a famous bank robber.
The Outlaws.
The Outlaws, thank you. It's okay, but Pierce Brosnan's great in it.
I've never seen a film where I like Adam Devine. I'm a fan of Workaholics.
I like Adam Devine too.
I've never seen a movie that stars him that wasn't just okay. With the exception of the Workaholics starring movie where they work in a hotel and it's a whole thing. I like that movie a lot.
You mentioned that because me and Trevor almost watched that movie a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Should we watch this?"
It's good. It's good.
I turned it on and then like backed out, but I was like, based on the recommendation, I might watch it now.
It's totally worth your time. It is kind of like Workaholics humor mixed with Die Hard.
A Die Hard, right? Yeah.
And it's really good.
My quick Google search there, The Outlaws, a Happy Madison production.
Ooh, that explains it. That explains that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
A Netflix
that makes sense.
Happy Madison production with Adam Sandler and like Alan Covert and company as a producer.
Yeah.
That was like the first name I saw was Adam Sandler. I was like, Adam Sandler's in it? Oh, no, he's just a
not
producer.
In the movie.
Yeah. He just produces it.
It's very...
It's that brand of a Netflix movie. Got it. The back to the Black Adam. Like Pierce Brosnan was probably my highlight of
I would
Black
believe
Adam.
it.
Like his character is doing like the most visually interesting stuff in that movie, and is easily like a solid performance because it's Pierce Brosnan and he's great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Never saw it.
Yeah, I did.
I'm curious to watch it because I feel like it's a movie that will, especially some of these movies, I feel like, especially on the DC side of things, because of how that sort of disintegrated, I feel like are really interesting time capsules to go back to now. That's one of the ones where I'm like, I'm just so curious to see that in the context of this didn't do anything afterwards.
I mean,
and
yeah, that one is such a like, and it's fascinating because like politicking is such a like charged sentiment in the context of like wrestling stuff. So like it is peak The Rock, Dwayne Johnson politicking and being like, hey, I want my character to be on par with Superman. Like that should be the level that this character is at. And DC in a pre-James Gunn takeover just being like, all right, like he's the biggest superstar in the world. We'll just do what he's asking for. We'll just make it happen. And yeah, it turns out you shouldn't just give him everything because he's not the the best in terms of like creative sentiment and whatnot. Oh, you're gonna take a Shazam villain completely ripped away from Shazam and just kind of give him a standalone film? That's a very weird choice. And it doesn't work. But like the weird little team he builds up around him ends up being a lot of fun. So yeah. I mean, I guess not a lot of fun. A little bit of fun. They make it fun enough to make me not hate that I watched the movie. But Pierce Brosnan is the easy stand-up.
Trevor still has the scars of Doolittle. Doolittle still scars Trevor's soul.
Sure, yeah.
Without even seeing it, there are for sure worse superhero movies that exist than that movie.
Oh yeah,
I don't even have to like.
Yeah. Like Flash is infinitely worse than.
Oh, Flash is so. I haven't even seen Black Adam. Flash is worse.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Worse than Black Adam.
There are probably like 4 X-Men movies that are worse than that movie.
Yeah.
Probably literally.
I mean, well, I'm thinking of which ones are better, and it's like First Class, Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
X2.
X-Men 2.
Yeah.
X2, yeah.
And then, probably the first X-Men.
Yeah, I would say
it's
so.
probably those 4. Those 4 are better than Black Adam.
What a crazy series, yeah.
Yep. All right. And we talked about doing like the X-Men
I still think
Summer of
it'd be
X-Men
so
thing.
interesting. I still think it'd be so interesting.
It's
You can't pay me to watch Age of Apocalypse again. I won't.
I think it'd be so interesting. I don't know.
I will do anything for Oscar Isaac. I will not watch him in Age of Apocalypse again.
The X-Men series got so bad, none of us watched the last Phoenix movie that they did. Like,
but what a great way to go out on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, all right, we can't top or do worse than this. You know what I mean? It's a great swan song.
I would much rather hang around waiting for No Way Home than go out on fucking X-Men. Anyway. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like all this stuff. Disney Plus throws out there Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which we talked about a little bit here, as well as the Spider-Man animated series that ran from 2017 through 2020. Then there is Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. The Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 are the top 8 that Disney Plus will throw your way. Extracurriculars. Anybody watching anything else on Disney Plus? Cam, I know you obviously and I are both watching Andor. Where are you at? Have you watched any of Andor season 2? Or are you waiting for post second year of law school, Logan?
The latter, but also it'll just be nice to. I obviously love Andor. We did episodes on this, years ago at this point.
2022, yeah.
Yeah, I love Andor. I think Andor is something really, really special. That first season of Andor is one of my favorite Star Wars things that exist. So I will be excited to just kind of watch it, kind of the completed story in one go. Very soon, actually. I have very long flights in my future that I might spend, as Andor is meant to be watched, on Trans-Pacific flights.
There you go. If you are unfamiliar, season 2 of Andor is broken out in like 4 anthologies. So each 3 episodes is basically like like the first 3 episodes were in 4 BBY, then we jump ahead a year to 3 BBY. This week's episodes were 2 BBY, and then we'll wrap up basically leading straight into Rogue One in next week's episodes. Yep. And I told Karen I watched this week's episodes Tuesday night when they dropped, and basically immediately went to Cameron and was like, I think that might be my favorite Star Wars thing that I've ever watched. Like, and then Cameron sat down and was watching it last night, and I was like, I was sitting down to eat dinner, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit down and watch all 3 episodes again right alongside Cameron. And like Cameron's reactions very much mirrored my own in terms of how much cursing and how flabbergasted he was at moments based on what was happening.
I yelled a lot. Our neighbors could probably complain.
I just think it's something. Yeah, it's just. I mean, this isn't an Andor podcast, but I just think it's just something so special, and all of us collectively also love Rogue One, which is somehow divisive and not a universal opinion, even though Rogue One is excellent. I think was in our, if not in our top 3 favorite Star Wars movies when we did that. It's got to be number 4. It's right there. I think Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie that is not in the original trilogy. I think Rogue One is super special, and they took that and just did incredible things with it in Andor, and gives so much life and gritty realism to a rebellion in that universe, and makes all the sacrifices and everything that Luke, Han, and Leia will do when they come into the picture, I think, even more poignant in a lot of ways because of the sacrifices that allowed it to happen.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I can find our Summer of Star Wars rundown of things.
Because 5 and 6 would have been the top 3, and then I'm trying to think like if we had 4 ahead of it or not.
So it was this was all back in 2021 when we did our Summer of Star Wars, and we ended with Empire of Dreams. But I don't have I don't have my rankings here in this doc. So did I have that? Was I keeping that in a separate doc at that point? Oh no. Apparently I must have been. Yeah, let me see if I can Google Star Wars rankings real quick.
I think we probably would have done. You know what? Until I get told otherwise, I'm going to say we would have done 6, 5, Rogue One, and then 4. That feels right.
I think I would have fought for 4 being above Rogue One, but.
Maybe you would have won. I know we wouldn't. We would have been too divisive to have had Episode 8 high. Episode 3 is the best prequel movie, but is being that's damn it with faint praise. So we wouldn't have been higher. So it's no lower than 4 out of the Star Wars films.
Oh, we also watched the Clone Wars movie in that part too. So that's.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that didn't. That was
That was. I believe you guys made sure that was the bottom. So.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I tried to make the argument that episode 2 should be at the bottom, but I was outvoted.
Actually, we probably would have made episode 9 the bottom.
I know. I hate episode 2 more than 9.
That's crazy. You're incorrect.
But I think
that's straight up.
Yeah, I think we outvoted you on that.
I believe so. I believe so.
Episode 2 is the worst prequel movie. People give episode 1 a lot of shit, but episode 1 has moments that are what some people might call enjoyable.
I would say
I just don't know what's happening in 2.
I'm sorry. You're talking about the fall of a republic happening because of trade embargoes and tariffs and economic things and politics and people not paying attention. I don't know. Maybe we have some like modern parallels. Maybe people should have been watching episode 1.
It's also funny because people give episode 1 a lot of shit.
Those can all be fine, but when George Lucas can't tell that story because he's not a great writer, it doesn't work.
That's fair. You're right. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But it is funny because people will make that point, and then I'm always like, yeah, but me and Cameron love that shit.
Yeah,
so
it's
you're
true.
talking to the wrong crowd here. It's like, I don't know what you want from me.
Half that podcast, we eat that shit up.
Yeah, it's like, I'm here for it, all right? But episode 2 is the worst.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone lie to you.
I don't know what happened.
Out of the prequels.
I don't know where my rankings have gone.
Well,
I'd have to find it in some other doc. But I do believe
it's definitely top 4. It's definitely top 4.
I think so. Yeah.
It easily became the best of the apart from me that might have argued for Last Jedi as the best of the Disney era of Star Wars. I believe it ended up winning out in the best of the
That's
Disney
an
era
interesting.
thing.
Do you think that episode 8 is better than Rogue One?
I like Last Jedi probably more than Rogue One.
It's a more fun movie, I guess.
Yeah. It's
also pretty dark. It's a weird.
And it might be rose-colored glasses since we now are a season and a half or season 2 three quarters through Andor.
Yeah, like if you really want to, I thought about this earlier in the episode when we were talking about best trilogy. If you counted Andor season 1, Andor season 2, and Rogue One as a Star Wars trilogy,
it might be the best trilogy.
The best Star Wars trilogy.
It might be the best Star Wars trilogy. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Yeah, obviously benefited by more hours, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yep. But as I was saying, I might be rose-colored glasses are like looking back now. But yeah, like Diego Luna, like what a gorgeous man.
I think Rogue One is just so. I mean, again, this is across Spider-Verse podcast, but I just think Rogue One is it's just such a special movie, and it was also. Trevor can probably correct me on this, if it came out before or after Last Jedi, but those are basically the last big, it felt like, swing of the bat risk that Star Wars under Disney really took. With those two.
If
stories.
I recall, it went Force Awakens, Rogue One,
Solo?
Last Jedi, Solo. Solo basically ended the standalones, and then we ended with Rise of Skywalker. And that's the last of the live-action Star Wars movies we've had since then.
And it's a shame because I think Rogue One I mean, again, I have not even that many issues. I have some issues with Last Jedi. I talked about them before, but I have said pretty consistently, at least since 2021, we rewatched it, that I appreciate that movie took a giant swing of the bat, right, and tried to do so much stuff. And even if it didn't land 30% of it, what it did was, at the very least, really interesting. And I will always respect that so much more than Rise of Skywalker. That I've also been very consistent in saying is the worst movie I've ever seen. And I'll say it to the day I die. To the day I die.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful about Star Wars. Maybe my favorite movie and my least favorite. Great.
Trying to think anything else I've watched on Disney Plus. I think there was, but I've forgotten what it might have been. Doctor Who. I'm still watching Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, Doctor Who stuff.
Doctor Who season 2 / series 14 or whatever we're on. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Logan and Cameron, for joining me to talk all about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, one of my all-time favorites. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout-out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout-out to last week's That Nerdy Site show, where Trevor and I did a spoiler cast on the Thunderbolts. Logan, if you haven't seen it, worth the watch.
I wanted to check it out, actually.
Really good. We had a really great spoiler cast about it as well. So.
Yeah. You can follow Logan at Lefty Logie. I don't know if you're even still doing stuff on social media, but that's where you were on the Twitters and the Instagram and stuff. Anything you want to give a shout out to or a plug to, Logan?
All the stuff that Trevor and Cameron have been doing for months on end as one of us went to law school.
There you go. I don't know if you caught Cameron and I played through Split Fiction, the latest from Hazelight.
I saw this.
So it was a nice little companion to our It Takes Two playthrough that you and I did a couple years back.
I saw that.
You can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. And as I said, next week's episode is going to be Cameron and I back for the Andor Season 2 wrap-up as we talk about these last couple arcs. It's, already been like a highlight of a series overall. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they attempt to land the plane next week. So stay tuned for all of that. If you like that, you can find all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. If Into the Spider-Verse ever comes out, I'm sure we'll come back for another episode of that. Same for Spider-Man No Way Home to round out this summer of Spider-Man that we did back in 2020, whatever. It might have been 2023 when we did these. I forget. But anyway, thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, class dismissed, and thwip thwip.
Thwip,
Or
thwip.
T-whip, T-whip.
T-whip, T-whip.